Have you been on Twitter? Like, have you ever used Twitter?
I used to, but I do not have an account anymore.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
probably you can probably guess why.
yeah. I also am not on Twitter anymore. But one thing that while I was on there that I was observing is Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, Bernice King. Um, People would be constantly telling her, "Oh no, this is what your father actually meant." Like, I mean, it was so
Uh,
frequent and consistent
yeah,
that
yeah,
it was wild for me to see that. And
yeah,
even thinking for myself how Dr. King's legacy was presented to me, what I've learned since the first presentation, through reading his books and speeches and writings and whatnot. Um, I just, with the level of manipulation of a civil rights icon who like literally is the only individual person with a federal holiday after them at this point, like they have rewritten his entire life story
yeah.
and the meaning of his works and words. And I just feel like with that kind of power that we're dealing with, and given the legislation that is passed, I can't deny that means it's a very important battleground that, like you said, must be dealt with and must be fought for.
Hmm.
But I just feel like our fights within the systems of oppression have been ineffective for generations. And I
Hmm.
just feel like at a certain point, we need to consider a strategy where we don't necessarily stop doing that. We're going to continue that. But there has to be some kind of separate, maybe grassroots movement to go alongside the work that we're doing with that.
Hmm.
It can't just be people at the top being, going around talking to superintendents and whatnot. I mean, because the reason those people get into those positions sometimes is because they're not going to do it,
Oh
because
yeah,
they're not going to
yeah,
implement a DEI
right,
curriculum, right? And so
yeah,
it's just, I wonder about effectiveness of our strategies and like what to do next, which is why for me, I really want to focus on community spaces, churches, community centers, stuff like
yeah,
that, and just creating an opportunity to, number one, raise money for those communities to utilize for anti-racism work. And then number two, to just offer a space the same way that I offer it on Zoom for the conversations on race, but offer that live and in person for people who may never actually have an opportunity to have a conversation on race with someone who's racialized as Black. Um,
absolutely,
and and just like, engage in the conversation, take some fear out of it. And
yeah,
of course, like I said before, be put to that choice of, okay, now you're understanding, what is what. And so now you need to decide, do you take on anti-racism as a value or not? And make sure
yeah,
that people understand what it means to do one or the other.
yeah. I'm with you 100%. I think one of the things that it took me too long to realize was that we need to be doing this work everywhere, right? When I first realized that there was a way for me to do this professionally, and I saw it within sort of the sphere of education, I switched what I was studying from astrophysics, because my dream was to become an astronaut, to psychology. And then I went into the field of education because I felt like that was the only place I could do it. Right. And now I think, I wonder if I'd become an astronaut, maybe my voice would be heard differently. Right. So one of the things that I talk about in the book is that the idea that each of our unique voices is needed, right? And can be incredibly valuable to the work. So it doesn't matter what your day job is. It doesn't, regardless of that, you have your circle of friends and family, your community, the schools that you or your kids go to, et cetera, your workplace, whatever it might be. You have a unique voice, right? And you have relationships. And so when you speak up and you're a finance officer, right? That's going to land different than when the diversity officer like me says something, right? So it matters. And I think that that's true sort of with respect to how we approach these things as well. When you were talking, I was thinking about, I wish I could think of the name of the person right now, but they have these Saturday schools in Oklahoma City to counter what's being taught, particularly around African American studies. What's happening in Florida now with the same sort of thing, where there's communities and churches that are teaching African American history because it's been taken out of the schools. So that community-based work is critical, right? So I agree. Any and every way, any and every direction, every field. I don't care if you're a scientist or you work at Amazon as a delivery person. It doesn't matter what your day job is. You can have a real influence, right? And I think that part of the indoctrination that we get is that there are leaders and then there's the rest of the people. And if you're not in a leadership position, right, that positionality thing, if you're not in that position, your voice doesn't matter. You just do what you're told. And that's not the case, right? We can all have impact on our organizations, on our communities, in our circles of friends and family, all of that. And it's a matter of actually doing something, right? That's probably the group of folks that I'm hoping will read the book, right? So I can have a little influence for those people that I think of as bystanders, right? Kendi in his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, talks about the non-racist folks, right? And how that really, if you're non-racist, you're really not doing anything. You're supporting racism, right? And I think of them as bystanders. So you may really genuinely see yourself as not racist. But if you're doing nothing and watching it continue to happen in front of you, even when your voice could matter, then who are you really helping? Right. So I really want people to recognize the power of their voice and their perspective, and that, their cousin or their teammate, their colleague probably will hear them better than they're going to hear somebody like us that's always doing this work that they've written off. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% that, we need to come at this in every possible way.
Yeah, Dr.
There's going
Jojo,
to be areas where we could be more effective sometimes. Like right now, it's going to be tough. We're fighting for survival in education, right? And we will survive, and we will continue to do the work, no doubt. I don't want anybody to think that what they're calling DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which in higher ed we call inclusive excellence, that it's going anywhere. It's not. There may be some folks that lose jobs, and there's going to be departments that disappear, but the work will continue, and those goals will still be struggled for. And so we have to adjust and say, okay, maybe like you're saying, we've got to do more of the community-based work right now, because that's where we're going to make progress, and just be strategic.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks for watching. For access to the full-length conversation and all of the 2-hour-long unedited conversations that I've had on race, click the support link in the description below. Thanks for your support, and see you next time.